very last speaker before it's up to you to ask us some challenging questions once again. Transport, when we think about smart cities, we think about smart cities in the first place, but these smart cities, citizens must have smart products in the future.
Well, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, yesterday some speakers here in the forum, they praised the literature in Finland, and I would like to praise also the music in Finland, because this year is a very special year. It's 150 years ago that your national composer Sibelius was born. And there is a special link between Sibelius and Oulu. Perhaps you know, but he has made one composition called Breaking the Ice in the River of Oulu. I've never heard it, but perhaps you can go to the internet after this meeting. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm trying to break the ice, in fact, between transport and smart cities. For our members, and that are transport users, transport is never a goal, but it is the necessary link between the production at one side and the consumption at the other side. And cities take their special position because they are concentration of people who like to consume in shops, in restaurants, and even in theaters like here. But also they like to move in their city as undisturbed as possible, to stroll and to play with their children. And therefore a lorry or a truck is seldom perceived as a positive phenomenon. It's forced, in fact, like Father Christmas in a role that he is bringing its presents, but you just hear ho, 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 and some bell ringing and perhaps a knock on the door, but nothing more. However, if we go into more detail, you see that 75% of our economy depends on transport. Without transport, an economy and also a city comes to a full standstill within a few days. However, we have some challenges in urban areas, pollution, congestion and noise, to just point out some of them. And the uncoordinated delivery of goods by different suppliers certainly adds up to the problem. Most shops in city centers do not have any warehouse, and square meter prices are very high, so they can change for that. And for retail companies, it's therefore impossible to require big quantities at the same time. Also, we see quite some new tendencies, like, for instance, e-commerce. Internet sales are normally delivered at the consumers' homes. And as in an average street, people are in the majority of cases not at home during daytime, this delivery should be repeated and repeated. And for the delivery of goods to end consumers, often light commercial vehicles, often called vans, are used. And these failed attempts to deliver goods to the addresses adds up to the cost and time for logistic operators. Of course, they also have a negative environmental impact. Another issue is, of course, the empty running. Empty running is still a problem. The empty running of trucks is in general around 40%. For shippers and consumers, it's an important issue because this figure should go down as far as possible, because inefficient transport will increase the total cost for consumers and decrease the competitiveness of a product on the market. At the other side, we should realize that empty running will never be reduced to 0%, as there is an imbalance of goods entering and leaving urban areas. And we don't like to have our meat brought into the city in the same car which takes our waste from the city. If you look to the last mile, compared to the global delivery of the goods, it's a very costly last mile. This is even more the case if goods must be transported conditions such as foodstuff, flowers and pharmaceutical products. These temperature control deliveries are normally transported also in vans, and there the pollution and the noise can be a problem. Local air quality, of course, is a problem. Medical investigations have proved that polluted air can influence expected age and life quality, and sometimes also extension of ports and airports is conditional to a reduction of road transport to the favor of other modalities. The lack in coordination of policy, I think, is a major problem, and that's a central message in my speech. For solutions in this situation, we should look to the EU at one side, but also to the national governments and to the communities. Because it's the municipalities normally setting the rules for congestions at one hand and for the emission at the other hand. And this means that sometimes time and windows have been identified which forces lorries to drive during the most congested hours. And this means that an optimal spread over the day is not possible. The same applies, for instance, for night distribution. But also we have some enablers. In many countries, best practices are developed, and it's important to build on them and not to reinvent the wheel. And I invite you to look at, for instance, www.bestfacts.net, where a lot of best practices are gathered. It's important also to agree on smart indicators in measuring successes, for instance in emission, where we still are lacking standardized methods of emissions. The EU-supported FACTO system does not fill that gap, and also the Green Freight Europe system or the Lean and Mean system don't fully fill this need. Then drivers, it's important to link in fact the drivers to things which are important economically. So next to reliability, money is often an important driver. If efficiency, sustainability and reduction of congestion can go hand in hand, lower cost can seduce traders to change their traditional behavior. And for consumers, it's also important that they understand the consequence of their decisions. If all-in prices are used, like in some web shops, they, as consumers, have no influence at all in the way goods are delivered to them. So, in fact, small-scaled initiatives, often run by subsidies from the European Union, have certainly have some success, but many work with consolidated models where goods are delivered at one micro warehouse and from there brought to certain addresses in the town. This is done, for instance, by electric vans or even by cargo bikes. And we have in Utrecht, for instance, a very good example with the beer boat. Then I come to the summing up. To really be successful in meeting the goals in urban logistics, we need a coherent approach in politics. Next one is the standardization. Standardization is really key. Then we need to focus more on a complete supply chain solution and not only on the last mile, which can lead to, in fact, sub-optimization. Make more use of the possibility of IT. That should be a very successful statement here. And the last one is that the legal framework should be more proactive than just reacting to the development. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. I hope I succeeded in breaking the ice between the cities and the lorry, and sorry for being between you and your lunch. Thank you very much.